Okay, just like in the very beginning, we're not going to always have perfect squares. So we can still perform operations. First, let's take a look at this aspect in a multiplication sense. So to square root of a non-perfect square, you must find the perfect square factors of the radicand and simplify them. Be sure you want to use the greatest perfect square to minimize the number of steps. And what I'm going to do is show you this way so you can understand, if you don't, that you will have additional steps that you have to go through. So let's say we want to simplify the square root of 48. So I'm going to show you the first method that I feel is a good method. Either method is good, but I just want to show you what I feel. Okay, so here I have the square root of 48 is equal to, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside here and I'm going to do what it asks me to do. I'm going to find perfect square factors of the radicand. The radicand is 48. I want to find perfect square factors. So if I look at 48 times 1, only perfect square is 1. It's not going to do us any good. Then 24 times 2, neither are perfect squares. Then I come to 16 times 3. So I'm going to factor 48 on the inside, which means I'm going to break it down to two multiplication terms, 16 times 3. Now, if you notice, 16 is a perfect square. So I can bring this out and say the square root of 16 times the square root of 3. That's just what we were doing with multiplication, but now I'm factoring them. That means I'm doing the inverse of what we did to multiply them. Now, I have 16 times 3. If you notice, 16 on our little chart is a perfect square. So we can solve it. That's going to give us 4 times the square root of 3. Okay, that is simplified. Now, again, what are we looking at? 1, 2, 3 steps. Well, let's take a look at the method B, which I'm not going to say that you cannot, because there's more than one way to do things. But again, I look at the small amount of steps pretty much keep us from making error. So here we're going to do it without picking the greatest factors, perfect square factors. So here I have square root of 48, and I'm going to say, well, let's try 4 times 12. So here I got the square root of 4 times 12, and that's inside of my radical. So now I can take them out. Square root of 4, it's a perfect square, times the square root of 12. Okay, so the square root of 4 we know is 2. Now I'm looking at 12 and I'm thinking, you know, what are the factors of 12? 12 times 1, 6 times 2, 4 times 3. So that somewhat tell me that I can take 4 times 3 out of 12. Now what I have is the square root of 2 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. Well, I can solve the square root of 4. So I'll have 2 times 2 times the square root of 3. Of course, we know 2 times 2 is 4, and the square root of 3. So you see, we did tack on additional steps by not finding the largest or the greatest perfect square factor. But again, very straightforward, and I am very confident that you can perform any non-perfect square simplification.